Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's been a little bit since I've posted a video and shared content here. So I wanted to pop on really quick, just for about 20 minutes and do a live Q&A. So answering some questions, but I also wanted to talk on a specific topic that has kind of been going crazy lately. So I'll kind of give some background information. I posted on TikTok a few weeks back, maybe a week or two ago, talking about certain toxins that are actually found on clementines. And it kind of got started the conversation of toxin accumulation. A lot of people were wondering and asking, how much do we need to be consuming for this to be considered toxic and for us to actually be concerned? Is it a concern at all to eat foods that are heavily sprayed, to consume toxins and chemicals in our food? Should we worry? Should we not? So I kind of wanted to make this video and touch on that a little bit since it's a fresh topic right now. But I'm going to just spend a few minutes going into the accumulation of toxins in the body from our food and explain what actually is happening and why we should be kind of concerned. And then after that, I will answer some questions just for a few minutes. So if you guys have any questions for me, you can just start putting them in the chat. I have not posted a video here to YouTube in ages because, for those of you who are new and don't know, I had a baby a few months back and life has just been upside down. We're still not sleeping like at all. We're getting like 30 minutes at night maximum and it's broken up. There's just been a lot going on. So my energy levels are so low right now, and unfortunately content has just had to take the back burner because I'm still working in my practice full time and doing, consults and stuff. So obviously that gets my biggest focus and attention. So I do apologize. I miss everybody here. I miss this platform so much, and I definitely am not giving up on it, and I will be back. It's just I need to be able to sleep a little bit first and get some energy, and then I can come and put all my time and energy back onto this channel. Anyway, so I also made an Instagram post today talking about certain toxins that you'll find within our food. But what I really want to drive home today specifically is the understanding that our food today is not what it should be, and it's not what it used to be way, way, way back in the day. So almost everything we pick up off the shelf now has been altered or adulterated in some way to contain a small or a large amount of toxins. The more processed the food is, the more toxic it is. Now, this is a huge topic. I'm not going to dive into all of it tonight because it is quite late, but I want to share some like little truth bombs, I guess, with a lot of you, and maybe give you a new way of looking at your food and thinking about every decision that we make, how it's impacting our health, not just today, but years and years and years from now. So I was actually getting a lot of people who were so upset at me on TikTok because they were like, just get over it. Everything in the world has chemicals. You cannot live chemical free or toxin free. So just enjoy your life and eat whatever. And I understand where they're coming from. It can be frustrating when you are like, well, I can't have this and I can't have that and I can't have that because these are all toxic. Life can get really stressful. What we're trying to do here is by no means be toxin free, because as unfortunate as this is, we cannot live a toxin-free life. It's just how it is in our modern world. But what we are trying to do is minimize as much as possible our toxin exposure so that we can have a longer, healthier life. There is no doubt, this is not opinions anymore. These are proven through studies that you absolutely can develop cancer from different pesticides and herbicides and additives added into our food. It's not an opinion, it's a fact that you can develop autoimmune disease and inflammatory conditions from toxins found in our food. So this to me is something where you can live a long, healthy life, hopefully, and have good quality of life, not be suffering, not be in and out of hospitals, and not be, limiting your life because you don't feel well. Or you can have a long life but be really sick. And the goal is, we cannot guarantee obviously that we're not going to have health issues as we get older, but the goal is to try and do everything we can in our power to avoid them so we can ideally, hopefully, have a long, healthy life. For those who are joining new, you guys can leave questions for me in the comments and I will try to get back to everyone. So coming back to this topic, what do we do when our food has toxins and chemicals? So like I said, our food is touched everything we eat now is bad. So let's start with our proteins. If you're not getting grass-fed, organic, pasture-raised, if you don't know truly your farmer and where the meat is coming from, it's probably pumped up with antibiotics and vaccines and hormones and things. And these are put into the animals because they're grown in such a small, or they're raised in such a small space, that they will contract different diseases from each other if they're not vaccinated and if they do not have antibiotics and things. And they pump them with hormones so that they can get fatter or bigger quicker, and then they can get, meat from them quicker. So the meat itself is super toxic, and then they're eating just like GMO diets that are affecting the meat itself, and then we're eating that and putting that into our bodies. So meat's a huge source of toxicity, and it's so important to get good quality meat or don't touch it at all. Same thing goes for seafood. If it's farmed, if it has, any kind of if it's not wild caught, let's just say that, if it's not purely caught from the wild, from the ocean, you are getting a lot of, again, antibiotics and things because they're all grown in a tank and they're just not filtering it enough for the amount of fish that's in there, and they can get a lot of gross things. So you're getting a lot of chemicals through that. And then they're, of course, not consuming things from the ocean, so they're lacking in omega-3 fats and things that you would normally be getting from fish, so they are nutritionally depleted. Same with cows. If they're not consuming and grazing on grass, but they're eating GMO grains or whatever they're being fed, or whatever else is, like, sometimes they'll give them like gummy bears. You've heard that, I'm sure, by now. They're not having rich vitamin E in their fat, and they're not having all these, essential nutrients that they would be getting if they were grazing on grass. So then we're eating the food and we're not getting those nutrients. So we're becoming deficient as well. So protein's a huge source of toxicity if it's not chosen correctly. We also have a lot of toxicity coming in from our produce, because as much as we want to be eating greens and vegetables and fresh fruit all the time, because this is the most nourishing food, it's not ideal if we don't know where it's coming from or if we're not getting the right stuff. So let's start with citrus. Citrus is one of the most heavily sprayed crops out there, and especially because depending where you live, at least for me in Canada, we don't grow citrus here, right? We are importing it. So anything that's going to cross the border is going to be extra sprayed, very heavily sprayed to resist mold and pathogens and parasites, whatever, but also to make sure that they're not bringing any viruses on the produce across the borders into different countries. So one huge thing is try to not buy imported as much as you can. Now, again, we're not saying to never eat oranges or to never eat imported food. It's just trying to minimize. So rather than having everything in your pantry or your fridge imported, try, if you can, to get local on whatever possible. And then with citrus, the specific video I made on TikTok was talking about there's a lot of different things that are sprayed depending on which medium they're going to use. But the one I was talking about was thiabendazole, which is one of the most, if you research it, one of the most toxic fungicides, They have pretty much banned it in most places. If you just look into thiabendazole, it's been banned because of its extreme side effects. But they're still using it because, like, we can go to my store and I can buy oranges that are sprayed or treated with it. This does penetrate the skin. Okay, most fruit skins are porous, so some fruits that have thicker skins are going to absorb less into the actual flesh than others, but they do pass into the produce. And so citrus is sprayed. If you're eating like strawberries or berries or greens where you're eating the whole fruit directly, where there is no skin at all, then there's no protection. So if they're sprayed, you're eating all of that pesticides. Also keep in mind that a lot of plants are treated when they're planted, and it goes through the seed, through the root system, and it's within the plant as the plant is growing as well. So it's kind of depositing to the fruit. So I'm not going to go into a huge topic of how they're sprayed and what's sprayed, but the point is our foods are sprayed quite heavily. And so we think we're doing ourselves, this huge service by consuming tons of fruits and veggies. But at the end of the day, if we are eating foods that are sprayed left, right, and center, we are just putting all that poison into our body. Now, eating an orange that's been sprayed here today, not a problem, right? Eating, some berries that have been sprayed, not a huge deal. But if you're consuming high levels of things that are sprayed over the course of your lifetime, and on top of that, you're eating meats that are treated heavily over the course of your lifetime, and you're eating packaged foods that are GMO, that have food colorings, that have carrageenan and other nitrates and cancer-causing agents over your lifetime, and then we're breathing in environmental toxins over our lifetime, and we're putting shampoos, conditioners, body wash, colognes, perfumes on our bodies over our lifetime, etc., 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 it's no longer a small amount or a minuscule amount of chemical. It's a bombardment. And that's what the whole point of this is we can do what we can to minimize. We cannot eliminate, but we can minimize, or we can just go on and live our life and not care. But we have so much knowledge today. There's studies on everything. There's everything that you want at your fingertips with a quick Google search. You can access so many research articles and things on every chemical, on every food ingredient possible. So with that knowledge that we have, there is no more denying the negative effects or impacts on these different pesticides, herbicides, chemicals, preservatives that are in our foods. And most of them, if you do research them, they have liver toxicity, like hepatocyte toxicity, as a side effect. And I want you guys to just take this one more step further and think, if something is damaging our liver cells, how is this happening? So when we ingest a food, any toxins that need to be eliminated from the body, so anything that's not good, that our body does not need to use, has to filter through the liver or sometimes the kidneys, pass through our urine through the kidneys to eliminate, or pass through our liver, which then gets dumped into our gut and we eliminate through our stool. So everything we're eating, for the most part, is passing through our liver, which is one of our vital organs. It's our detox organ. And as these chemicals are passing through, that's how they're damaging the liver cells, okay, the hepatocytes. So if you think about it, when there's something like thiabendazole listed saying that it causes liver failure, liver damage to the cells, within 1 to 24 hours after consuming it or coming in contact with it, it makes you think how much liver damage is happening to us over our lifetime of eating heavily sprayed foods and chemicals, right? So if our liver is being damaged, if our liver cells are being damaged, this is how a lot of people will develop non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So just by having a bad diet and not watching what you're eating, you can develop fatty liver. And this is where your liver is just not functioning well. You can have elevated liver enzymes and all kinds of liver issues, which will then affect and increase your risk of cancer. It'll affect your diabetes potential, your autoimmune potential, and so much more. So it is so crucial. It's so important to really think about what we're eating and what we're coming in contact with, and just doing our best to minimize without the fear. There should not be fear. I had a lot of people who were like, oh, you're just fear mongering. And that was not the point either. It's not to drive fear, it's to educate. And then with this information, you can make an educated decision on what you want to be policing in terms of your food and your diet. So I'm going to quickly explain what we kind of do with our eating and share some good alternatives and things to look out for. Our diet's not perfect, and it's because it can never be just living in the world that we live in unless we grow absolutely every single thing on our own, which we try to do. We grow in the summer and spring as much as we can, but it's not possible for us personally, to, at least in this stage of our life, to grow everything. So unless you're completely growing your own meats and absolutely everything, you can't minimize toxins or eliminate them 100%. So what we do is we don't eat meat every single day because we simply cannot afford it for my size family, because I choose quality over quantity. So instead of us, having meat every day because we can't live without it, I say, no, we're going to go for quality meat. So we're going to buy what we can afford. We're going to spread it out over the week. And some days we might just not have meat, and we'll do other protein sources. So for meat, we have a farm that we order from. We know the farmers, they are grass-fed, pasture-raised, organic, super clean. We also have a local farm who has pasture-raised, organic, and grass-fed lamb, and also pasture-raised chicken. So we buy their chicken and lamb and the eggs from our local farm, and then the beef and everything else we order from another farm that I said is pasture-raised. And eggs are so affordable still for us right now. So eggs is a good protein source for my kids and myself. If we're needing protein on days where we can't afford to have a piece of meat, then that's what we'll do for protein. I also utilize collagen and like New Zest protein powders to bump our protein up, and seafood as well on days where we're not having actual meat. But we are very careful with the meat we buy. Like I said, quality over quantity. With our produce, I do everything in my power to buy organic. Organic is very expensive, so I pick and choose. I will not buy like organic avocados or organic squash because Even if they are treated, at least I know the skin is quite thick, and I'm hoping that the penetration of the chemicals is very minimal into the fruit or into the flesh of the vegetable. So anything with a really thick skin, I'm less prone to buying organic because a lot of times it's just not affordable. But anything that is not covered in a skin, so berries and greens and herbs, I'm so diligent about buying organic, but also local. So something can be grown organic. Say something's grown in the US and it's organic. If it crosses the border, they're going to spray it. So even though it was grown organically, if it's imported into a different country, there's going to be some degree of treatment. So there kind of goes your organic, produce that you're buying. Now, it's probably still better than something that has been sprayed throughout the course of its life and then also treated as it crosses the border. It's no doubt organic is still better, and you can wash it and remove some of the residues, of course, but there's still going to be some remnants there. So for us, it's really important. We try to buy local when possible and organic when possible. And then anything that is imported, again, we're going, like your avocados, we obviously don't grow those here, right? So, and even our citrus, I will just buy like my citrus organic. I heavily wash them, but something specific like clementines, which are small and have a really thin skin, these will go rotten way quicker than like a large grapefruit or a lemon, which has a thicker skin. So clementines, for example, are going to be sprayed and treated more aggressively than something with a thicker skin that can have a longer shelf life. So we just don't buy clementines unless I can find organic ones that are not sprayed, which is very rare. So we just pretty much don't eat them. I'll buy whole oranges. We'll peel the skin. It's a lot thicker. So I'm hoping that the pesticide residue, if it is sprayed over the border, or the fungicide residue is minimal. And that way, again, we can still get our nutrition and our vitamin C without having too much exposure to chemicals. So we don't eat clementines or things that are super thin skin that are being imported because I know they're going to be sprayed. And if something is imported that we're buying, it's a thicker skin. So I hope that makes sense. Anything that is genetically modified, we will always only buy organic. So corn and soy, for example, those have to be organic. As far as grains go, we know rice is really high in arsenic. So I will buy from companies that have proven through their research that they have tested for arsenic levels and that they are very low or non-existent. So I don't just go and buy rice off the shelf. I will either call the company if they don't have information on their website, or I will go on their website and look into their proof and their testing. With legumes and things like that, we just buy organic. I soak them for like 24 to 48 hours. So we pull as much as we can out, and then I cook them really well. Now for packaged things, we try to minimize anything in a package as much as possible, but I'm going to be realistic and say I've got 4 kids and I've got a really crazy, hectic life. So we do consume granola bars and we do consume processed foods and we love them. But we do just try our best to, first of all, check that they are organic, that the additives are minimal, so that they're using like vitamin E tocopherols versus something that is a more toxic preservative like nitrates, sodium benzoates, things like that. So we by no means will touch anything that is not a real food ingredient. So we're super picky with the packaged foods that we're buying. We try to stick to companies that we know are super clean, super pure, same like really good ingredients. If we're buying anything and there's any kind of carcinogenic ingredient, we just won't touch it. So that's kind of how we live. In the summer and the spring, we grow all of our own vegetables for the most part, and as much fruit as we can. Being in Canada in a colder climate, we can't grow like citrus and tropical stuff. So that's usually the stuff we will buy. Again, making sure it's organic or super thick skin, so we're minimizing that exposure. But that's it. So that's what I wanted to share. We cannot ever stop the toxins, but we can reduce. So even in our home, you will never find a fragrance of any sort. It's only essential oils to use in our, like on our body, but also in our environment, in our air. If I make candles, it'll be beeswax with essential oil. So we're not having all of those phthalates and chemicals. We don't use plastic, so we're not having, at least minimizing our plastic exposure and our BPA exposure, things like that. So we're just doing the best we can. And that's the whole point here, is just, you cannot be perfect. It's just whatever you can do, because we are bombarded left, right, and center. Even our cooking ware, if you're using aluminum pans and skillets and foil, things like that, you're coming in contact with so much more heavy metals. So by using stainless steel or glass cooking ware or something, you're just minimizing some more exposure. That's all. I hope that this was helpful in some way, and that maybe you guys learned something. I'm just going to answer a couple questions if there are any. So if you guys have questions, put them in the comments. There's so much more to this topic, and I think I will make a whole YouTube video on it once I have some time to actually do that. But it is, or I might even do a webinar on my membership platform so I can spend like an hour really diving into some of the specific chemicals and what they do and share some research behind it. Because I know that's always important for people, is they're like, where's the proof that these are toxic? So that's the plan. I'll sort something out in the future. But as far as, life goes, guys, do not stress, because that's a big toxin source. So rather than stressing about how everything's, tampered with these days, instead just do what you can, do what's in your control, and let the rest be, and don't stress about it. And if you do eat a clementine here or there that's sprayed, or you have something that maybe has nitrates in it, don't stress, right? If it's once in a while, it's fine. It's just when we're constantly not caring and just overloading our bodies with chemicals, that's when it can start to increase to high and dangerous dosages over our lifetime. All right. Okay. So someone wants me to explain bladder congestion. I pee frequently. I haven't heard the term specifically bladder congestion, but typically if you're having to urinate frequently, that is usually some sign of inflammation within the urinary tract. There's many things that can cause inflammation, like pH imbalance and stuff, but very often there's some bacterial imbalance going on that is creating that inflammation. So I would personally be recommending like a urinary flush, at the same time a pathogen cleanse, and also some kidney drainage. That usually can help clear it up, but it depends specifically what you're experiencing. What's the best way to clean the vegetables and fruits? So that's a great question. So you can use baking soda in water, and that can pull quite a bit off. You can also do apple cider vinegar washes, which can also remove quite a bit. So I will do that. But I also, for me personally, I love the Thieves fruit and veggie soak. I don't do like the Young Living business side of things. So this isn't like a push for product. This is just genuinely something that I love and I've been using for years, because I love the utilization of essential oils in that as well to help, pull anything off the surface. But really, there's so many home things you can do. Baking soda, apple cider vinegar, those are great. And you can just soak them for like 20 minutes maybe, and then rinse them really well. At the end of the day, it's not going to remove everything. It's only also going to remove what's on the peel, not what's inside the fruit, of course, but anything you can do will help. Do you think it's okay to repeat the Renew 3-day cleanse twice a month? So I cannot give any recommendations or information on that, just, without you being a client, because it might not be okay for you depending on what your health conditions are. So I usually don't recommend like a specific cleanse unless I know your whole health history. But normally with cleansing, you want to be careful, because if you are doing, say, a pathogen cleanse, but you're not having the right liver and kidney support, it could lead to an exacerbation of symptoms. Also, if you're taking too many herbs and your liver is congested or anything like that, you could cause some strain there too. So just be careful. I love doing really gentle things if you're not sure what to do. You can do herbal teas, which are so gentle, like dandelion. I love doing like an olive leaf tea, things like that. You can do liquid chlorophyll potentially. Just always check with your doctor. So there's like more gentle things you can do if you're not sure if doing like a strong herbal cleanse is a good idea for you. But at the end of the day, if you're looking to truly do a cleanse, I always recommend working with a practitioner so that they can guide you and do what's right for you and your health and your body. What water system do I use? I use the Berkey filter for our everyday drinking water and our cooking water. Berkey has been used in our home for like 6+ years now. We love, love, love it. It's so, so great. It filters pretty much everything. But we also have a home filter. So where we live, our water comes from the cistern. So it's not like just straight up city water. Because of that, we don't know what's in our water, but we do have a UV filter. So that kills any pathogens in the water. And then we have a sediment and a chlorine filter as well for the whole house. So what we're showering with and stuff is chlorine free. But of course, our drinking water is filtered. It takes that filtered water and it filters it even more. So we're doing the best we can with our water. Let me see. Yeah, a lot of people use the 5-gallon plastic jugs. So it's not ideal because you are getting the BPAs from that. And what actually was crazy to me, so a friend of mine, when I was back in university days, her dad owned a water bottle factory, or whatever you call it. And she would always tell me that there would be water bottles that are like water that's bottled inside the bottles, whatever. But it would be sitting and storing in the factory for years. So think of how much plastics are leaching in years of just sitting there, even or even a few months of just sitting in there, right? The same thing goes for the big gallon jugs. If there's any transportation that's within heat, like if the truck is hot where they're being transported in, that leaching will just happen even quicker. So it's kind of crazy. There's so many studies out that like test people's blood for BPAs and seeing like how high it is if they drink plastic water, water from plastic bottles. It's actually quite intense how much plastics we can accumulate over our lifetime. So trying to minimize that's ideal. If you can't afford to get, I'll back up a step. The nice thing about the Berkey filters is that they have so many different sizes for your budget and your family size. So if you have a smaller family, you can do with a smaller a smaller filter, and that will be way more affordable. But even if Berkey's not an option at all, it's usually like it's a couple $100s. So if that's not an option, you can get even like a pitcher that you have to just fill up every time. So it's more tedious. But if you're at least using that for your drinking water, like get a pitcher that has a really good filter and it filters the majority of things like fluoride, chlorine, heavy metals, etc. Even if you're only using it for your drinking water, that can really help, right? So just trying your best to move away from plastics. And if you still have to have them here and there, it's better than having it all the time. So just, yeah, again, always doing what you can. Um, yeah, so okay, so another option for the 5-gallon, again, I would recommend Berkey because literally you can get water from anywhere. As nasty as this sounds, you could literally get toilet water, which please don't. But Berkey on their website, like they have videos of people going up to like the muddiest lakes, creeks, streams, and using that Berkey water, filtering it, sorry, using the stream water or like the pond water, whatever, filtering it through a Berkey filter, and it comes out crystal clear. And when they test it, there's no chemicals. So it works so well. So the nice thing is if you don't have good water, but you have a Berkey, you can put any water in there and filter it and have crystal clear, clean water. So that can completely eliminate the need for buying water at all. Just go to your tap and fill it up. So it's way more cost effective in the long run because once you buy the Berkey, you have it forever as long as you take care of it. You just have to replace the filters. And I'm not sponsored by Berkey, by the way. I paid for mine and I just love it. But another alternative, like I said, if you can't afford Berkey, if it's not an option, Berkey, first of all, does have water bottles, which are like $30 or $25, and you just have to fill it up every time. So it's more tedious, but that's an option. Secondly, I would say try to move away from the gallon water and buy a pitcher. I don't have brands to recommend because I don't use them myself, but I know clients who do, and I can try and get some brands. But a client of mine actually the other day was telling me because I've been trying to get her to buy a Berkey and she just was not able to afford it. She bought a pitcher. She found a company that filters just like a pitcher. It's kind of like a Brita, but better because it filters so much more. And you just fill up the pitcher, put it in your fridge, let it filter through, and then you can drink that. But you're just having to replenish it more frequently. So she bought two so that she could cycle through them. So that's an option as well. All right. Okay, Mal J says, I have MCS and mold. Any recommendations for weight loss? I've gained and I was having trouble with body temperature. So this is a question that's going to be hard for me to answer because there's so many layers to this condition. And as soon as there's mold toxicity, you are dealing with a whole new host of things. But what I usually recommend, if there's difficulty with weight specifically, it's always a thyroid component, a metabolic component. If your metabolic system is shutting down, it's because the cells that are burning your sugars and your carbs for ATP energy, the mitochondria of the cell, is damaged. And that's usually damaged from toxins like mold. Heavy metals is a huge factor here. So there's most likely some degree of heavy metal toxicity. And then, of course, just the accumulation of other chemicals we're exposed to over our lifetime. They quite literally damage the mitochondria of the cell. And then the cell is not able to, when you eat your food, it's not able to take that insulin and that sugar or carb that was broken down and absorb it into the cell and burn it for energy. So it starts storing it as fat instead. And so your metabolic system kind of just gets really sluggish and slows down. And then that's where the weight will start to pack on. So any chronic illness at all, especially if mold is a factor there has to be cellular drainage. And this is something you would need to do through a practitioner who does this kind of drainage therapy. But having remedies, and they're very specific and chosen specifically for the individual, so I can't give recommendations. There's like thousands to choose from depending on your history. But the way that it works is taking different homeopathic remedies, they'll go inside the cells and over time flush, get rid of all the chemicals, and then they repair the mitochondria. So that kind of is like restarting your metabolic system so that over time you can start speeding up and improving weight loss. But it's doing it at the root of the source, the problem area. At the same time, of course, you want to be clearing out mold. You want to be breaking down biofilms, draining the liver and kidneys, supporting the thyroid, and so much more. So it's a hard question for me to answer. I don't know if I can give specific recommendations per se. But my recommendation, I guess, for you would be to try and find a practitioner to work with. I think that could be the biggest benefit. The next question, I'm going to be ending the live soon, so I'm just going to answer a couple more and that's it. Can you explain alkaline water? My son wants to drink this and he insists it is more healthy. Okay, so I have like mixed opinions on this. So I'll start with what I don't like about alkaline water. It is hard to, it's kind of like the same concept as drinking chlorophyll at mealtime. So if you've eaten food or snacks at any point and you do not have 100% empty stomach, when you take alkaline water, it's diluting your stomach acid and is going to interfere with your digestive process. So that's the concern that I have with alkaline water. It's not that it's unhealthy, it's just taking something alkaline when most of us are eating, snacking, having meals quite frequently, it just really can interfere with digestion. And I've actually worked with clients, several, who were only drinking alkaline water, and over time they started developing like acid reflux and things like that because their digestion just got really bad. So that's my problem with it. If you are only drinking it when you have a 100% empty stomach and you're sure, and then after you drink it, you don't eat anything for like 30 minutes, it's probably great. Do keep in mind too, though, most of the time, if you're having alkaline water, you don't actually absorb the minerals in it. If that's why the water's alkaline, if it's because of minerals, you're not actually absorbing minerals unless there's something acid with it. So adding lemon or apple cider vinegar to the water can be helpful to absorb the minerals from that water, because I'm almost done here. When we eat a meal, if we want to absorb the minerals from that meal, we need acid. And that's why our stomach is producing acid when we eat. And that acid helps to break down the minerals and then absorb them through the gut lining. So anytime we take minerals, if we are just on a mineral supplement, but not having vitamin C or some kind of acidity, if you're not taking it with a meal or anything to help bring acid and bind to the minerals and pull it through into the gut lining, into the bloodstream, you won't absorb it. So if you're taking alkaline water on an empty stomach, which you should be, but not taking something acidic with it, the chance of absorbing the minerals into the gut is very slim. So keep that in mind as well. If you're going to have alkaline water, which is great, just take it on an empty stomach and squeeze some lemon or apple cider vinegar in it. You'll have probably a better chance of actually absorbing the nutrition from it. Yeah, so taking the 5-gallon water bottles and filling them up with good water, that's better than just drinking, because a lot of people don't realize that bottled water is pretty much just tap water. So filling up with better water is great, but it's still, yeah, if it's sitting in the gallon jug, I mean, I'm sure it's sitting in there for a shorter period of time than if you were to buy it from a store that's been there for months, but you're still going to have some plastics. So if that's all you can do right now, then just deal with it and then try to have every other aspect of your life super clean. But if you can find an alternative to your water, that would be the best. And typically it's finding some kind of really good filtration system so that you can just have water constantly and not have to stress about filtering it somehow. All right, I'm just gonna see if there's any final questions. Otherwise, I will sign off. Yeah, saving for a brick is great. We saved for, I think, like 1.5 years or 2 years. We needed a bigger one because our family was large, and we've actually have outgrown ours too. I find that like I'm filling it up 2-3 times a day now, because my kids are just like guzzling water all day, which is a good thing. But yeah, we've outgrown ours, so they can get pricey, especially the bigger sizes. So we've had to save up for ours for sure. And we are in Canada, so we're paying the Canadian exchange, which is horrid compared to the US dollar. But if you are in the US, it's going to be more affordable for you. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining. Again, I'm so sorry it's been so long since I've been on YouTube, but I promise there will be content at some point soon. I just need to get some rest and get my baby to sort himself out. I don't know what's going on there, but once we are sleeping and life's a little bit less crazy, I will be back to my full-time content, which I'm so excited for. And every time I get requests, guys, I'm just adding it to my list, and I will get to everybody's video requests, and everything's coming. It's just kind of a crazy season right now. So thank you for your patience and for sticking around. I really appreciate it. If you guys want to see day-to-day content from me, please follow me on Instagram. I'm posting there almost every single day with lots of like really good knowledge and content. And also on TikTok now. I was like, I bit the bullet. I'm like, I'll join, fine. I'll put content there because that's where everybody's going. So I have those 2 channels where I'm posting quite frequently, and it's easier for me to post little snippets of content versus a YouTube video, which is much longer, takes editing and things like that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining. I hope you guys have a beautiful night, day, wherever you are, and also an awesome rest of your week. And I will see you guys soon. Bye.